In this video, I'm going to model the yellow part of the handle. And this shape is basically a cube that has been beveled to create this tighter ridge here. And you can see that same thing over here. And then it basically curves in a little bit. So I'm going to start by creating a cube. So I'm going to go to click on the polygon cube, create polygon button, or you can go to create polygon primitives cube. And then I am going to move that up and then hit R to get into scale mode and scale that up to basically the width and height in the front view. And then I'll take a look in the side view and scale it in this direction. And just like with the handle grip, I don't actually need the top and bottom faces on this, so I can either just hold down Shift and select both the top and bottom faces, or I could have gone into top view and then just selected the face like that, so gone into top view, selected the faces like that, and hit delete. So I now have the basic shape for this. Then I can work on adding in some edges to create that bit of a curve and this edge here. So I'll go to my multi-cut and I will first put in an edge loop here. And again, I'm holding down Control so that that adds an edge loop around the whole thing. And then I'm going to hold down Control and Shift to create an edge loop in the center, and we'll start from there. So just going to click on Edge, double click on this edge to select the whole edge loop and scale it up a little bit uniformly. And then double click on this edge and scale it up uniformly, and check in this direction to make sure that those match up well, so something like that. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, and then I'm going to hold down multi-cut, hold down Control and Shift, and add in 2 more edge loops, and double click on those edge loops, scale them in uniformly just to get that curved shape. And again, just double click and double check in this direction. So then I want to get that effect of the edge here that then kind of softens out to meet up with the handle here. So what I can do is start by double clicking on this edge, hitting Q so I'm just in selection mode, then hold down Shift, double click on this one, and this one to select all 4 of those edge loops. And then I'm going to use bevel to create that first beveled shape. So I'm going to click on bevel and want to make sure that it is the width that it needs to be. So I think that actually needs to go up to a fraction of about 0.6. And I now have that basic shape for the handle. The thing is, if I go into object mode and just deselect it, you'll see that I've got these very hard edges up here that don't look at all realistic. So there are a couple ways to go about getting rid of the hard edges. One is I can just select it and go Mesh Display and Soften Edge, and that basically softens the normals on the whole thing, so it kind of makes it look like it doesn't have hard edges without actually smoothing it. Problem with that is that that made it a little bit too soft. So right here you can see that I actually have a bit of an edge right there on the handle that needs to be defined, as well as where the edges of the bevels are. So what I can do now is go into edge mode, double click on each of these actually, before I do that, notice that these edges kind of go more towards a triangle here. So I'm going to adjust that by going into vertex mode and selecting those 4 vertices and scaling them out that way. Then hit Q, select those 4 vertices and scale them out this way so that I'm getting that bit more of a triangle shape. So something like that. And I'm going to select them all and just scale them in a little bit. So that creates a little bit more of that shape. Right. Then I can go through and I'm going to hit Q, so I'm just in selection mode, double click on this edge loop, hold down Shift and select on each of these other edge loops. And click bevel and create that fraction to about 0.6 in this case. So now you'll notice that I'm getting a bit more of a defined edge there. And I want the same thing here. So I'm going to double click on that edge loop, do bevel, and this time bring it down so it's more like 0.05. And I get something that looks like that. Now on this one, I may actually need an extra little edge loop in there. I won't worry about that right now though. Alright, so right now this is still a little bit not real smooth, so I'm going to use the multi-cut tool again and make sure that my mesh is selected. Hold down Control and Shift to add in some edge loops like that. And then double click on the edge loop and just scale them in to get a little bit better defined curve. So something like that. Alright, so that's looking a lot closer to the reference. Alright, so now I want to make the nice transition. Actually, I don't need that edge, so I'm going to double click on it and then hit Control Delete to delete it. I need to make the nice transition from the handle to the grip. And if you remember when we made the grip, it had 20 edges all around. And right now with this handle, there are 16 edges. So if I again use the multi-cut and hold down Control Shift, add an edge there, Control Shift, add an edge there, same thing here, Control Shift click. I now have 20 edges that I can use to match up with my grip cylinder. So I'm going to come over here to shading and turn on wireframe unshaded so I can actually see the wireframe when it's not selected. Then I'm going to go into vertex mode. I'm going to select this vertex, go into the move tool, and then I'm going to hold down V for vertex snapping and snap it to the point on the grip. And I'm going to first do that for each of these ones that are in the center of the faces, so that those are snapped in place. And then I will do that for each of my other points. So basically go around and snap all these in place so that I get a nice smooth transition from the more square part of the handle to the grip part of the handle. All right, so now those kind of go together really nicely transitioned. And I then can select these two meshes. And again, there was no faces on the bottom of the handle part or the top of the grip. So I can select those two and just hold down Shift to select both of them and go Mesh, Combine. And Maya is now looking at these as one mesh. Problem is, right now, if I select one of these vertices, you can see that they're not merged. So now I'll go into object mode and click this little icon here, which says merge, and that will merge any vertices that are right on top of each other. This default distance threshold of 0.01 is fine. So again, if I select one of these vertices, you'll see that it's completely merged. So I then can select this, go Mesh Display, Softened Edge, and you'll see that I have this nice smooth transition from the grip to the handle. All right, so that is the process for modeling the yellow plastic part of the handle. You can see that I'm still matching up quite well with both the front and the side views.